The story begins with a boy named Hank who is playing football on the field, but suddenly he witnesses something that shocks him to the core. His closest friend and girlfriend are cheating on him. Heartbroken and devastated, Hank stands frozen. But before he can even process what's happening, a strange, sticky creature emerges from beneath the ground and wraps itself around his leg. That single moment ends his sports career forever. Once a national-level player, Hank now works as a cashier at a supermarket. Though he somehow manages to survive this fall from glory, the greatest pain in his life is seeing his ex-girlfriend and former best friend married. With kids, Hank feels like he has no purpose left in life. And as if that wasn't enough, he soon loses his father too. Having endured so much loss, Hank breaks down, collapsing to the floor and crying uncontrollably through the night, letting out years of buried grief. Years pass. Hank now works as a janitor in a high school. One day, he meets his old teacher who inspires him to live again. Motivated by those words, Hank resumes his studies and through dedication and effort, eventually becomes a biology teacher at the same school. Ironically, one of the students in his class is the daughter of his ex-girlfriend. When Hank drives home in his old, rusty car, he still keeps a photo of his ex stuck to the dashboard, proof that he has never truly moved on. But things take another dark turn. Hank begins to suspect that his ex's daughter might actually be his own child. He quietly decides to get a DNA test done to confirm it. That same night, a fungus-like monster breaks into his home, trying to kill him. In panic, Hank switches on the light, and immediately the creature freezes in place. That's when Hank realizes that the monster is afraid of UV light. This fungus, in fact, is the same organism that had grabbed his leg on the football field 15 years ago. It had spread throughout the town back then, but since it didn't initially harm humans, everyone ignored it and went on with their normal lives. The next day, Hank begins cleaning up his late father's old bar, planning to reopen it. As he's working, a customer walks in and orders a drink, but the moment Hank serves it, the man suddenly starts vomiting violently and collapses. Alarmed, Hank calls for an ambulance, but before he can finish the call, a black cat walks in, and to his horror, the man's body sprouts tentacles that grab and devour the cat. The infected man then turns on Hank, attacking him. Hank fights back, but no matter what he does, his punches have no effect. The creature's arms twist into sharp branches as it's about to kill him, until Hank grabs a wooden plank and smashes it against the monster, burning it alive. Moments later, the police arrive. Hank tells them everything, but when he looks closely, he's shocked. The officers are holding a piece of the fungus, saying it's harmless, even good for them. Their eyes have a strange glow, revealing they're infected too. Realizing the danger, Hank jumps into his car to escape. The police try to block him, saying, "Becoming one with the fungus is a blessing. It feels like heaven." Ignoring them, Hank speeds away. The police chase after him, ramming into his car. Suddenly, an infected cow appears in front of him. Hank swerves to avoid it and narrowly escapes, though the cow meets a gruesome end. He rushes straight to the high school graduation party, trying to warn everyone about the fungus monsters, but the students mock him, thinking he's lost his mind. Heartbroken once again, Hank decides to just take his daughter, Grace, away from there. But before he can, Grace's boyfriend steps in. Assuming Hank is some crazy man humiliated and rejected by everyone, Hank quietly leaves. Moments after his departure, the students realize the terrifying truth. As they swim in the pool, fungus-infected creatures emerge from the water, attacking and killing them brutally. Chaos erupts, people are torn apart, blood splashes everywhere, and within minutes, the entire house turns into a scene of horror. Meanwhile, in one of the rooms, Grace wakes up to strange noises and sees her room completely covered in fungus. Acting quickly, she hides under a blanket, which miraculously saves her life. Back on the road, Hank senses something is wrong and returns to the party. He finds Grace and manages to save her just in time. But as they try to escape, an infected boy appears at the door. They slam it shut, but the fungus begins seeping through the cracks, covering the entire room. Terrified, Grace clings to her father. With no escape left, Hank prays for a miracle, and then something extraordinary happens. As the situation spirals out of control, the army arrives and rescues the survivors, relocating them to a large mart on the outskirts of town. The army leader explains that this fungus-like virus had been dormant underground for decades, but has now become active and the outbreak could last for the next 4 to 8 years. He instructs everyone on how to stay safe, keep all doors and windows tightly sealed, cover drains and pipes, and, most importantly, never go outside at night. However, many townspeople begin to distrust the government, suspecting that this is just an excuse to take away their freedom. Heated arguments break out. While Hank stays silent, he already knows the truth. He reveals his own discovery. The fungus is terrified of UV light. The next morning, as sunlight returns, the fungus once again retreats underground. Hank goes back to his late father's old bar, wondering if he should just leave the town for good. But suddenly, to his shock, his father appears alive. Hank realizes that after his father's death, the fungus had infected his body, reanimating him. His father tells him, "This virus virus can take life and give it too. If it takes over you, it could even heal your broken leg. He reaches out to Hank, but Hank knows this creature isn't truly his father. Without hesitation, he pulls out his lighter and burns both the bar and the infected body. Days later, at the school's graduation ceremony organized by his ex-girlfriend, Stacy, Hank confronts her and asks if her daughter is really his child. Stacy firmly denies it, but before Hank can say anything else, the ground beneath Stacy opens and the fungus drags her underground, killing her in front of him. That night, as Hank sits on a hill thinking, he sees all the town's lights suddenly go out. He realizes it's the night of the graduation party and the entire town is gathered there. Without wasting time, Hank straps UV lamps to his body and heads straight toward the school. On the way, he encounters his old friend, now fully infected and dying. Before he can reveal something about Grace, Hank's daughter, the fungus consumes him entirely. At the party, chaos erupts as fungus monsters attack everyone. Hank fights his way to Grace and rescues her, but the exits are blocked by fungal growths. They rush into a lab for safety, but a burst of fire hydrant water hits Hank, knocking him down and shorting out his UV lights. Just then, Grace's infected boyfriend appears, wielding a hammer, and attacks. Hank dodges and counters with a power drill, impaling him, but infected bodies can regenerate and the boy revives, until Grace provokes him by calling him a useless idiot, distracting him long enough for Hank to kill him for good. Two more survivors crawl into the lab, joining them. They realize they must escape quickly before the fungus closes in. Hank remembers the stadium's UV floodlights, which could weaken the fungus smashing through a window. They make their way to the field and reach the control room, only to find the wiring damaged. Hank tells the others to reconnect it while he turns on the main switch. Before leaving, Grace hugs him tightly and says, motivated, Hank sprints toward the switch, his once broken leg now strong again. Just as he reaches it, a giant fused fungus monster attacks and throws him aside. The others in the control room are also surrounded. As all hope seems lost, Hank spots a football lying nearby. Memories of his old days flash before his eyes. Using all his strength, he kicks the ball perfectly at the switch and the stadium lights blaze on. UV rays flood the field, freezing all the fungus creatures in place. Survivors gather in relief, thinking the nightmare is over, but one by one, the lights start flickering off. The fungus has chewed through the underground wires. Hank yells for everyone to climb the tall tower nearby. They scramble up as the creatures pursue them. Some fall to their deaths, but Hank, Grace, and the last two survivors reach the top just as sunlight breaks through the horizon. The morning rays strike the monsters below. The survivors laugh in disbelief, finally feeling safe. But suddenly, dark clouds cover the sun again. The monsters beneath begin to move, wrapping their slimy tendrils around the tower. The fungus starts spreading up their legs. Hank holds Grace tightly, ready for the end. But in a final miracle, the sunlight pierces through the clouds once more, destroying the fungus completely. The nightmare ends. Life in town slowly returns to normal, as if nothing had ever happened. And that's where the movie concludes. Friends, how did you like the story? Let us know in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next amazing video.